Hello everybody and welcome back to the Restricted View podcast. As always, I'm Chris.
And I'm Deborah.
And we are here to bring you a review for a show that we actually saw last year, 2021, I think. No, we didn't.
No, early this year.
No, early this year. Sorry,
Yes.
time has gone melded.
Wibbly wobbly. We actually saw this show with Michael. Our,
semi-regular Restricted View honorary member.
Yeah, exactly.
Which some of you may remember from such wonderful reels as Starlight Express. But yeah, so we saw this it was actually Michael's suggestion. He was really very excited to go to it because it is a spooky ghost story. Which Michael has a love-hate relationship with, don't you, Michael? So this is 222, a ghost story, which originally ran... which theatre actually was it in first? I can't even remember. It originally ran... We saw it in the Gielgud, right?
Yes, I want to say yes.
So we saw the Gielgud. We saw the second cast of this in the Gielgud Theatre. It was originally the Noel Coward's Theatre.
Yes.
I've just found in my notes. It was originally in the Noel Coward Theatre and with Lily Allen, who was actually Olivia Award nominated for her role.
And Hadley Fraser as well.
Was he also nominated?
Yeah,
as well?
I don't know if he was nominated, but he was also in it.
And Julia Chan and Jake Wood. So we saw the second iteration at the Gielgud Theatre, which also had some fairly big names. It gave us our 3 of 4 in the quadfecta of in-betweener actors. James Buckley was in it. So we've now seen James Buckley, Blake Harrison and Simon Bird on stage.
We have, yes.
And also Stephanie Beatriz, which I think was probably the biggest name.
Yes, Elliot Cohen and Giovanna Fletcher as well.
Yes, and it is now it has just reopened last week.
It has indeed.
So it's now running from now
until the beginning of September.
Yeah, 4th September 2022.
It might extend again for all we know. It's very popular, and they keep they cast really popular actors who people want to see, and I think that's one of the gimmicks of the show.
Are you calling stunt casting?
Yeah, I'm calling stunt casting.
Well, I mean, I remember when we left the theatre, I predicted it would get a third iteration with new actors. Do you remember?
I do remember, yes.
And it did. And this time the stunt casting is I've lost it. Here it is. It is Tom Felton.
Yeah.
Also known as Draco Malfoy. And also Mandeep Gill, who we're not overly familiar with, but she is a Doctor Who companion.
Mm-hmm.
And then Beatrice Romilly and Sam Swainsbury. So yeah, it's stunt casting might be a bit harsh, but I do think I
agree stunt casting is a bit harsh because they're all actors and they've always been actors in all of this. Even Lily Allen had done acting jobs before.
Actually, I know her brother and her father are both actors.
I believe she had, yeah. So it wasn't anyone's first rodeo, let's say. Sure. But they are all big names.
Yeah, they're all big names. Yeah, I think stunt casting is unfair, but definitely it's part of the kind of the marketing package most certainly. It was definitely calculated, if not.
Yeah,
stunty.
yeah, and I think it's a great way to, in a weird way, it's a great way to do these type of stories in the theatre because I don't know how popular they are. But then, having said that, the woman in black, is still there after all these years. So ghost stories are maybe popular. Maybe I'm wrong about this.
Well, ghost stories definitely are popular. As I said, Michael has a love-hate relationship with them. He hates being scared. He hates being scared, but he loves ghost stories. So 222. It is a brand new play. This is actually its third iteration. But it's all exactly the same production, just with different cast. And it was written by Danny Robbins, directed by Matthew Dunster. It was set design by Anna Fleischl. And costume design by Cindy Lynn, lighting designer Lucy Carter, sound designer Ian Dixon.
You might be wondering why you're reviewing this now. The production you saw, like the version you saw, is closed. Well, yes, but at the same time, it's the same production has moved on to this new theatre.
As I said, it's just the cast.
A cast change, and we thought, well, we might as well. I think it's a show that will appeal to a lot of people, so you might find the review helpful.
Yeah, unless you only wanted to go see it for Lily Allen, or only wanted to go see it for Stephanie Beatriz, then this review will be trust me, perfectly useful for you. It's the same production. So 222 is so it's a ghost story.
Yes. Roll credits.
So it basically is a. We want to avoid spoilers, obviously, as much as we can. If we do have a spoiler section, we will.
We'll make note of it.
Yeah, we'll highlight it, and it'll be in the description. But basically, it takes place all in one evening, with the exception of a very brief prologue. And essentially, this couple who recently moved into a new house, kind of, a very large old house sort of thing, classic ghost story thing, right? At 2:22 at night, every night, they hear.
The wife hears.
Yes, sorry, the wife starts hearing crying coming from. And is it crying, or is it just footsteps in the baby's room?
Yeah,
and sound.
Odd noises and sounds. Yes.
And and they're having these guests over for a dinner party. I think it's a friend of.
Yeah, so I think the main action happens on this one evening when they're having a dinner party with one of Sam's oldest friends. Sam is the husband.
Okay.
And so they're having a dinner party with her friend.
Actually, do you want to tell us those so we can contextualize that?
Yes. Sam is the husband, and Jenny is his wife.
Okay.
And then we have Lauren, who is Sam's old friend and one of his best friends, and Ben, who is Lauren's.
Sam and Lauren were friends. Yeah.
Lauren's current seeing Ben. Right, they don't really have a deep relationship or anything. At least that's what it comes across. Yeah. They're together for the time being. They're very different. I think that's kind of highlighted in the play. So this is the one night this is happening, and the wife Jenny is quite jittery because the husband had been away. He's now come back. And
yes, he was away when she first heard it.
He was away when she first heard it. He's come back now, and he doesn't really believe her. He's a skeptical man. He's
this is his first night back then.
You think it is his first night back, indeed? Yes.
Back. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
And they're having this dinner party. She is worried that 2:22 this will happen because she has kept note of it, but at the same time she is concerned because she knows that the husband is not going to believe her. I think that's this kind of difference. He taught her in a way to be skeptical and to be like an atheist, and I think they talk about this. And now she's hearing ghosts.
He is an astronomer and man of science.
Yes, he is a man. And there are a few discussions about this
because
in the play.
Astronomer, not astrologer.
Oh yeah, important difference there. Yeah.
Then the boyfriend of I can't remember the character. Lauren's boyfriend Ben. Is he considers himself to be someone with the gift? He thinks he can communicate with the dead and whatnot. I think his mother had it. I think it was. He claims.
Yes.
So basically, there's essentially the first act is all after the initial setup of strange noise at 2:22, while Jenny is decorating the house, doing fixing up in the house, while Ben's away. After that initial setup, we then move to the dinner party, and it's essentially the first act is essentially the dinner party where they're all kind of chatting and pairing off in various conversations, and the ghost topic comes up, and Ben is skeptical. Jenny's upset that he's not listening to her. Sam is very receptive because he believes in ghosts and thinks he has the gift. Lauren is kind of just getting drunk.
Yep.
and essentially they all agree they're going to stay over until 2:22 to find out what happens.
Yes, that is exactly how it goes. So there is as you would expect, and I think I definitely expect this from any ghost story. There is a sense of build-up. Of this kind of something is going to happen. We know something's going to happen. They all decide to wait up until 2:22, and I think that's a big part of their agreement that evening. They decide to Ben decides to prove Jenny wrong in many ways. Mm-hmm. He thinks it's all silly. So they make this deal. Okay, let's all stay here. The guests too, poor guests, dragged into it. Let's stay up until 2:22 and see what happens. And obviously, then they play. So they do some almost like an invocation session, trying to see if the ghost is there to talk to them.
Yeah, they do.
A séance.
Yeah.
And they talk about life, the universe, and everything.
Yeah.
In the meantime,
so after that build-up, I talked about the second act is essentially that they're now dinner party's over and they're just waiting, and they for 2:22. So yeah, they have all this they have talk about life, the universe, everything, as Deborah says. Mm-hmm. They have a séance, and But ultimately, it is more. It's more. The second act is more of the same.
Yes, I think that's why it's so difficult to talk about it, because it is more of the same. It is just the same setting. They're just waiting. It's just more tension, right? Just more time to be tense about what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I suppose before we get into into more detail of the plot, I suppose we'll briefly mention the cast we saw.
I think it's worth it. Yeah.
And how we think anything. Well, we saw Giovanna Fletcher, Stephanie Beatriz, Elliot Cohen, and James Buckley. I mean, back to the kind of stunt casting kind of potential criticism, I think they all did a perfectly good job. I was perfectly happy. We didn't see the original cast, as we said. I think Tom Felton. I was surprised at Tom Felton's casting originally, because I assumed for some reason he was going to be playing Ben. I think it's because he's a similar age to James Buckley.
Yes, I agree with you.
He's actually playing. He's actually playing Sam, and I think that's actually quite good. My only encounter with Tom Felton since his Harry Potter days was his brief stint on The Flash season 3, but I quite liked him in that. And I think he'll be quite good at this part. So I think Mandeep Gill we only saw very briefly in Doctor Who. We didn't watch much of that series. And I have no experience with Beatrice Romilly or Sam Swainsbury at all.
No, I don't either. I don't know them. But the cast, as you said, I think the cast we saw, I think, did a good job. Giovanna Fletcher, I had seen her before, not acting. She writes books and all that, and I think she's well cast as this kind of... She's a wife and a mother, and she is quite nervous, and I think that suits her in a weird way. Stephanie Beatriz was fine as well. Always surprising to hear her not Rosa voice.
Yeah.
I think that's always a surprising thing to any Brooklyn Nine-Nine fans out there.
Yeah. I think James Buckley, he's always been trying to distance himself from Jay ever since the In-Betweeners. He doesn't do himself any favours by choosing to deliver the lines
in the same way Jay would.
The same way Jay would. But I enjoyed seeing. I'm such a big In-Betweeners fan. I definitely got my money's worth seeing him on stage. So I think the new cast is going to be absolutely. You're definitely not missing out. Don't worry if you missed out on Lily Allen or Stephanie Beatriz and you're disappointed. I really wouldn't worry. This is not. It's not like a powerhouse piece that really requires this.
Olivia Award-winning actresses and actors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, while we're on that topic of cast, very briefly, as I said, I didn't see Lily Allen. I am gobsmacked that this part is capable of being nominated for an Olivia Award. There's not enough to do with it.
No, I'm also surprised, but it's a slim pickings in many ways because there weren't many shows out last year. So
yeah, still, I mean, like I'll never.
Maybe she was very good, but it's not her. It's the part we're talking about rather than her.
Yeah, I haven't seen her. I'd love to have seen her because I'm fascinated to see what the heck she did with that part that made it Olivia nominated.
Yes, because it's a very simple part in many ways. Yeah. She's just scared.
It's a very simple play. And this is kind of, I suppose, where we get into certainly my initial criticism, which is that it is, we kind of talked about this with Michael after we left. This is kind of how horror stories work a lot of the time, unless they're gore fests. It's 99% build up, 1% payoff, and I think maybe just it should have been 95% build up and 5% payoff because. So basically, we've kind of given you the whole plot synopsis.
Yeah, without spoiling anything.
And you might notice that we've said very little about the plot because it is very little. It is just a dinner party, and they do have semi-meaningful conversations about the nature of skepticism and atheism and believing in the paranormal, and they do juxtapose kind of
and science versus folklore in a way. All that.
Yeah, they have those represented reasonably well with Ben and Sam. In particular, as the two kind of extremes, and those can be interesting conversations to listen to, and they contextualize what's happening. So it's not a waste of time or anything. It's not boring. It's not unpleasant or unlistenable to. It just isn't really doing anything massively interesting. It does feel kind of like a lot of filler and waiting around. And even when there's a few like quote unquote unsettling things, but they're not really unsettling things start happening. Like I think like I said, a teddy bear or something is found in a sink or something, isn't it? And it's like, oh, who put the teddy bear in the sink? It's like, oh,
it's all wet as well. I think.
It's all wet. Yeah. No one did that. Oh my god, it must have been a ghost. And it's like, because none of them are admitting to it. But it's not even a particularly. It doesn't. I don't know. If that's meant to be chilling, it certainly wasn't.
Well, I think then this brings us to the other problem that I found with it, which is. Any build-up that they did have, they kind of released or let go of with all the jump scares.
Murdered, you mean?
Yeah, destroyed. Destroyed is the word.
So these jump scares are not in the context of the story.
No, there's loud noise, and a kind of
There's a shriek.
a shriek and lights every so often.
Every scene transition.
Yeah, and yes,
And the
exactly.
End, the start. I think it's the start of each act, the end of each act, and the end of any blackout, basically,
And-
any resetting.
And what happens is, in the audience, maybe that works conceptually, but in the audience, when that happens, everyone starts laughing.
It doesn't work conceptually. It's awful. And I would like to say, and I'm going to be. This is the harshest I've ever been, and I've thought this through. I want to say this. Ian Dickinson was the sound designer. This show got an Olivier Award nomination for Best Sound Design. That is an absolute joke. Like a joke. Like seriously, the sound design was abysmal. Absolutely appalling.
He wanted to say a different word.
It was so bad. Like what? Like I like the, just what I don't understand is how the hell. I mean, maybe they've gotten rid of it in its third iteration now. But how the hell did they get to its second iteration with audiences laughing every night, and they kept it
Yes,
in? Like,
yes.
what is the matter with you?
Because it kind of robs the tension. It takes away the tension of the moment. So even if it's not the most tense of plays, even though it's a ghost story, I do think Woman in Black does a better job of that. But it breaks it down. Like it's not there anymore as
It's
soon
not
as the
happening
sound
in
comes.
The plot. It's happening.
Yes.
In its abstract setting.
Well, and this is
theater.
I think this is the other criticism, and I think that's just being very petty. Maybe it's not very petty. I think it might be petty. Is that they have a big clock that looks like almost a train station clock,
Yeah,
or
massive
what?
digital
A
clock, like-
massive digital clock on top, or like above a door.
Like dot matrix clock.
Yeah, and that nobody would ever have in their house. And I don't understand why that isn't either in the extra diegetic world, so like not within the set, or why the characters couldn't own a normal clock on the wall, because we would be able to tell. I mean, I understand that
It's an
222
analog clock.
analog clock, yeah, they just looked like a clock someone would have in their house.
Yeah.
You know, it seems silly, but when I first saw, honestly, when we got to the theater and we first saw it, we didn't know anything about the play. We got to the theater and we first saw it. I think it was Michael who suggested, oh, maybe it's escape room.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it
looks like an
looks,
escape room,
it looks like
yeah.
the clock in an escape room if you've ever done one. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
And it's just very odd thing to see on the set in a house. The set that's meant to be a house.
Yeah, we've kind of dropped out of our structural attempt. So that's
We just went full circle with the flow.
Exactly. Yeah. So while we're on set, let's just briefly stay on set then. Yeah, I think that the clock is definitely the biggest issue in the set. The set is it's a one room play. It's the living / dining room. There's
Kitchen.
Kitchen. No, the kitchenette's there as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a whole door which leads to the hallway. With a front door and staircase, and there's a bathroom off stage right.
And we also kind of see a little bit of their backyard, back garden.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like I think they got a skylight. For good for stargazing, for an astronomer. The set I found the set to be absolutely fine. There's one particular clever design piece of it, which allows for a nice effect. For the ending, which we won't talk about.
Yes.
But I found ultimately it's set to be serviceable, competent, and what's the word?
Well used as well, well utilized, I think, because they did interact with the set quite a
Yeah,
lot,
and
as you would in your house, apart from the clock.
Yeah, it had that clever piece design, as I said. But yeah, the clock is incredibly bizarre and out of place, and I don't understand what they were thinking. I think they just really liked the idea of having 222
But
exactly as it appears in the poster.
I-
with the
I-
black background.
I
and the
under-
dot matrix.
Yeah, I'm happy with that, but maybe put that on the framing of the stage,
On the proscenium arch.
on the proscenium
Yeah.
arch.
Yeah,
Yes.
maybe you can't do that. I don't know. Maybe you can't hang stuff from proscenium arches at these big theaters. I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, but if that's the case, then just get rid of it. It's it's an example of being so in love with an idea that you can't accept when it's not working.
Yeah, it just looked odd. But again, I think the biggest criticism is the fact that is all the jump scares.
Yeah. So then sound, basically, there's nothing really to write home about on sound apart from. Again, the ending has a nice use of sound.
Yes, yes.
Which is done well and kind of makes that ending hit home. But the sound design, which is nothing special, as I said, even when it's doing things well, is so massively overshadowed by the worst decisions I've ever come across in my entire life for sound. That
Well, I assume the decisions are not just of the sound design for this particular scene changes situation. Would that just be the sound design? Would the director have a say?
Of course you would, but let me put it this way: my problem was with the sound.
Yes, fair enough.
I mean, even if you turn that jump scare down a bit, it would help.
Yeah, and also
it's so
it's also odd because the shrieking that we hear in the scene during the scene changes is not even something that's part of the play at all. Not just I know Chris just mentioned that they are not part of not in the play, but also it's not a sound that we hear throughout the play anyway.
It's no, exactly. It's just
because we hear crying
it's like
and we hear
banshee-like wail, and there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that. That's the thing. It's not actually it's not scary. This is not a scary show. You can. I mean, it's got a slightly. The ending is a little bit like ooh, but it's not.
I think it's a
fine.
good twist in the end.
If you're if you're worried, it's going to be really dark all the time, and things are going to be jumping out, and it's nightmarish. It's not like that at all.
No, not at all.
It's a domestic little ghost story.
Yes, which is interrupted by the jump scares.
Yeah, which is a banshee for some reason wailing somewhere in the theater, and yeah, it's just the worst. It's so bad. It's like I just don't have the words to describe how terrible the sound design is without sounding needlessly cruel. But the fact that I'm so angry I got a Olivier Award nomination, like what were they thinking? Like the problem is Ian Dickinson's going to go away thinking that was a good job, and it wasn't. I mean, I've seen so many comments on social media also hating it.
Yeah, people commented in our own photo on Instagram say they didn't like the jump scares.
That's not even what I was referring to. I was referring to just random when it comes up on Facebook, people are commenting on the Facebook advertisement saying, "Oh yeah, I enjoyed this, but my God, those jump scares."
So unnecessary. Yeah, and jump scares are so cheap.
Yeah.
You don't need them to tell your story. I don't think. Maybe use them with moderation.
I don't mind it. There's one jump scare in the plot. Play itself, and it's a tiny jump scare. It was just like it's when he's outside the balcony.
Yes,
I think Ben's smoking on the patio, and he appears at the window, and it's like it's not meant to be scary. It's meant to be one of those laughter diffuse. It was just meant to be But look. We know we're not alone in this. I've yet to meet anyone or hear from anyone who actually thought those were good, or even were neutral on them. Mm-hmm. Everyone hates them. Ian Dickinson, take them out.
Maybe they have. We'll find out.
Oh God, I hope so. So the lighting, kind of a similar package to the lighting, and to the sound, insofar as nothing massively impressive to write home about, but didn't completely make any terrible choices like it sounded. So there were some nice lighting effects. Again, the ending I think is where everything kind of came together. There was the set sound and lighting all worked very nicely together for the little surprise at the end.
Yes, definitely. I think the end, the actual story wise, I think the end works as well. It's a nice twist. And upsetting as well because it's a bit sad.
Yeah, and it's nice that there's stuff. It's nice that this you can think back. There's a lot of hints littered throughout the text.
Definitely, yeah. I think we worked it out.
We worked it out.
During halfway through the second act, I'd say.
Yeah, we had theories in the first act which were not correct.
Yeah.
And then after the second act, we were like, okay, I think we know what's going on here.
Well, yeah, I think if you pick up on certain clues, you'll see they are there. So so that is the interesting thing about it.
And the costumes, weird enough, as far as I can tell from promotional photographs, changed from iteration 1 to iteration 2. And iteration 3 seems to be keeping the costumes from iteration 2. I'm not entirely sure why that would happen. The costumes were absolutely very generic. Nothing.
I was going to say basic, and I think that's it.
So
I think there's one particular element of it that...
only number 2.
In the second one, yes.
The new iteration, which is what you'll see if you go see it now, there is one kind of strange costuming choice
that makes sense at the end.
Which actually does make sense, and I think it's actually quite a clever piece of costuming.
I think so too, yeah.
So I would say the new iteration you will see is a basic but well thought out costuming experience. I mean, it's going to be basic, isn't it? It's essentially 4 people getting together to eat. It's not there's a limit to what you can do. But I do find it weird. So for the first the first iteration, I think the first iteration wasn't great because it didn't have that clever piece of costume that we're not mentioning for spoiler reasons. And also, Ben was in a very loud blue suit, which I think looks far too loud on the stage, because quite a muted, naturalistic set of a home, and then that blue. I mean, and it doesn't suit his character either. He's not the person who I would expect to wear that very loud blue suit.
Oh, really? I would expect that from him, but maybe they wanted to highlight that he was different because he is. I think there's a dynamics that you see between Ben and Sam, kind of showing how their differences, and then Lauren comes into it as well, and how different those two men are, and I think that's quite important to Lauren's relationship with him.
I would question how much thought was put into the original costuming, considering it only ran for a few months and then every single costume changed.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question.
Odd.
Yeah,
like why? I've never. It's very unusual to see that.
Yeah.
But I think the costuming, as I said, that you will see if you go see it now, is competent, serviceable, and also has some clever thought. Does have some clever thought behind it. So yeah, that's kind of a brief cover of set lighting, sound, costume, and cast as best we can do without having seen the new cast. Overall, I think my general experience of it was that I did enjoy it, but it was far too much build-up for very little payoff. The payoff is very good, but is it worth nearly 2 hours of build-up?
Yeah, not only is it very little build-up, a lot of the build-up is diffused. The build-up is diffused every 10 minutes.
Well, it's not actually as common as that.
I know.
I think this is.
But it's very frequent, I think.
There's maybe 4 or 5 of those shrieks throughout. The play also that's the real one's really unforgivable. After the quite nice, sad, poignant ending, you then just one more time with feeling, banshee wail, and red lights flash for no reason.
I feel they could have done that if they are so enamored with the idea for the ending. Maybe do that after curtain. Just when the actors are leaving, as a send-off.
It's already been diffused by the curtain call.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird. We gotta stop talking about that, but I really hate it so much.
I think that was the main topic of conversation when we left the theatre. So, and the exam.
Yeah, which is awful. Yeah, like a bad sound design decision has completely just absolutely overshadows this.
Yeah.
And it overshadows basically what I would call a very average theatre experience, which kind of has the biggest draw is the fact that it's a ghost story, and it's kind of unusual in a way in the theatre medium, right? Woman in Black, as Deborah mentioned, being the only really big famous,
which is still in London. Worth seeing if you haven't.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of an alternate recommendation to this. Would definitely be The Woman in Black, which I do think is better than this.
I think it's definitely better than this. Yeah. And it's a very good adaptation of the novel as well.
I really like the end. Yeah, it is. Yeah. I really liked the ending of 222 a lot. But I do find sometimes you can be tricked into thinking you enjoyed something more than you did because it ends well.
Yes, I think that happens a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely don't think this is like a really good because the ending. I think the ending is a 5-star ending.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
it's a great twist. I agree.
The ending is a 5-star ending, right?
Yeah,
I've thoroughly enjoyed the ending.
Yeah.
But the show definitely isn't a 5-star show.
No. Yeah, I agree with you.
And that's what I'm saying. You have to be careful not to get swept away in the hysteria of really liking an ending.
Mm-hmm.
So I as I said, I enjoyed my time with it, but I do remember I think in the interval thinking, ooh, this is kind of like a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah.
So far.
And I think, I'm only speaking for myself. I assume that's the same to you. I wouldn't go back to it to see the new cast now.
No, absolutely not. No.
Unless the fourth cast is someone I really, really admire, I don't think I would go back.
Why would you bother? Because it's like I said.
Exactly.
The writing is not sufficient to give no actor with any great chops is going to read that script and go, oh yeah, I want to play that role, because there's nothing special to be done with it. It's all very basic. The writing is not of the highest quality. I think there's a lot of because as I said, a lot of the entertainment that comes from the first and second act before the last 5 minutes where stuff actually happens is these, as I said, these conversations about life, universe, and everything, about skepticism, the paranormal, atheism, faith versus science. But they're very. It's kind of like when we criticize Walden for just staging this debate, and it's like the debates that would never take place the way they happen. Ricky Gervais likes to do this a lot in his stuff. He likes to depict people of faith saying stupid things. He writes them saying stupid things so that his character can then demolish them.
Yeah.
And I think that's, as an atheist myself, who thinks a lot of faith arguments are silly, I still think that's a really dumb and childish thing as a writer to do. And I think that this play is guilty of that as well. I think both sides, both the astronomer and the what do you call it, the medium characters, both say stupid and unsubstantiated things that then go unchallenged by the other person because the writer wrote it that he wouldn't challenge them. And I just think that's a really dumb depiction of these conversations. What's the point of? It's almost like getting on a soapbox and just kind of ranting off without the fear of being challenged.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. It's just there for the sake of expressing that opinion rather than furthering the plot at all.
Frankly, it's to fill time before they get to the bit that matters.
I almost feel, and this is just me, I almost feel like it could be a one-act play. It might have been more to the point and tenser.
I think there's a fine line between you need enough build-up, right?
Yes,
the ending,
I agree.
You need enough build-up that the twist or the scary ending is enough build up to the payoff can be paid off and feel correctly, but you also don't want so much that your audience get bored and lose interest.
In fairness, I didn't get bored at any point. It's just that I do think it was a little bit. I agree. It was a little bit long and a little too much of meaningless conversations.
Yeah, I didn't get bored, but I was never massively engaged at any point, frankly. And that's why the payoff then is like it's not a payoff for following this ride. It's a payoff for kind of putting up with this ride, which is kind
Ouch.
of well. I mean, it sounds it sounds harsher than I think my actual overall opinion of the show is. We don't do star ratings on a Straight Review podcast.
No, we would never. We would never.
But if we did, I'd probably give this 3 stars, which is more than you might be expecting given my harsh criticism. But it's harsh criticism of specific isolated elements, apart from the sound thing. That's the problem throughout.
But it's balanced by the good ending, and that's why I guess it gets a middle of the road star rating.
Yeah, and the writing, as I said, as I was being critical of the writing, it's not like terrible writing or anything. I don't like that whole thing of I'm gonna put my because I don't like the whole thing of, like I said, where Ricky Gervais just deliberately depicts theists as idiots who are completely easy to just take apart because it's just unhelpful. And the writer here kind of does it with both sides, and that doesn't make it better. That just means that you're misrepresenting both sides of the argument.
Yeah.
So is that no better? Is that better than misrepresenting one side? I don't think so. It's just as bad. But it's still the conversation is still entertaining to listen to, and both sides also do make good points as well as saying stupid things.
Yeah.
So there is stuff to be entertainment and interest to be found in these conversations, and the writing isn't bad insofar as it's not like ridiculous sounding dialogue. It's unnatural or horrible or awkward for the actors to deliver in a meaningful way. It's not bad writing. It's just not brilliant writing.
I agree with you, and regarding the star rating that I won't give it, I think I am in between. I know we don't do half stars. We don't even do stars. But I can see. I think 2. I'm tempted to give it 2. I think 2 is too harsh.
I think 2 is too harsh, and that's why because I think I would give it. I think it would be like 2 or 3. Definitely down to 2 because of the terrible sound. But then I think just the novelty of it being a ghost story.
And the ending is good, so it comes up to 3.
Being something a bit different kind of puts it on 3. I think, it's 2 or 3, but I feel more comfortable giving 3 than 2 personally.
Yeah, I think I'll stick with 3 for now. Might change my mind.
Yeah, but definitely, if you fancy seeing Tom Felton or Mandeep Gill, then I think it's worth seeing at a cheap price, right? Getting some not so expensive tickets. If you haven't got something additional like that drawing you in, then like we were kind of, Michael wanted to go see it, and we were always up for seeing new stuff in the theatre, so that kind of drew us in. I don't know if we've necessarily gone to see it without Michael's suggestion. We probably would have done.
Yeah, I don't know. I was intrigued by it last year when it came out, but not necessarily like enough to go see it. And now I think the push of going with a friend is, took us there to eventually make the move to see it.
Yeah.
We got a decently priced tickets as well. I believe we got a deal with
We did
Today
get a deal.
Ticks.
Michael found the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. So I would say go see it at a deal, or does it have rush tickets?
Yes, that's what I was trying to check, but it doesn't look like it's on Today Ticks, so no rush tickets. They do have tickets, so you can get them on their website. They seem to vary from anything from 90 to 15 pounds. Obviously, then you'll get very restrictive views, lots of pillars in front of you, depending on where you are. It is at the Criterion Theatre at the moment, and the Criterion is actually a very small theatre, so you will probably be able to see well, like I mean distance wise it'll be okay. It's just making sure that you don't have a pillar in front of you.
Yeah, most in the upper circle, I definitely recommend the Criterion Theatre. The rest circle is fine, I think, for the most part, from all the way across. But the upper circle, I'd recommend sitting in the centre if you can. The upper circle does really curve quite considerably. We've sat up there once.
Yes.
And it wasn't great. Yes, I mean, I would not want to pay more than £25 for this.
No, I would not either.
So
yes.
if they come to rush tickets, that'd be great. If not, I think the answer is to fish about for those £25 tickets in the back of the stalls or something, or in the back of the dress circle. There are some £25 restricted view seats that say there may be a pillar in the way, but it's not like in Phantom where you're actually sitting directly behind a pillar. It's where it's like a pillar might obstruct like the very extreme stage left or something.
Yes, and make sure to check seat plan before you buy your tickets, because they will. A lot of people have reviewed seats, and you can have a look and see where the pillars are. So if your ticket, when you're selecting seats, a message comes up saying, partial limitation or restricted view. And see why that is. If it's a pillar, go on seat plan, have a look and see how bad the pillar is.
Mostly not too bad in the Criterion Theatre, I think. But yeah, so to summarise, basically, it's new and exciting to have a ghost story on the West End stage. It is a competent and well put together production for the most part. It is classic horror story insofar and ghost story insofar as it's 99% build up for 1% payoff. Which that is the way those stories usually work. It is enjoyable. I would say a 3-star experience and worth paying in and around £25 for.
Yes, I agree with your star rating and recommendation, Chris. And if you have seen the show, or if you don't care about spoilers, just stick around a little bit longer and we'll talk a little bit about the spoilers. And a spoiler warning now, just in case you didn't know to stop your podcast before we kept going. Continue at your own risk. The big payoff of the show, as we mentioned, is the ending, is the twist at the end. And that twist is the fact that Jenny's husband, Sam, has actually been dead all along. And he is the one that she can hear at 2:22 because that is the time of his death. Yep. Oh, sad. Sad times. And all these
That's why he's going into the baby's room. See their baby. Yeah,
so basically there's a lot of she asks the husband to shut the window in the baby's bedroom. She says he's done it, and when she goes back up the window's open and all that. So he obviously hasn't done it because he's a ghost, so he couldn't close the window. Yeah. So and he doesn't eat anything at dinner. So there are lots of subtle hints.
He's not drinking and stuff.
He's not drinking. He wears like one
of those puffer jacket things.
A gilet. That's what they're called.
Puffer gilet.
Yeah, very outdoorsy. Style, right?
Gilet doesn't have to be like one of those puffy ones.
No, it doesn't. No.
Like I've never seen a human wear one of those indoors.
I'm sure some people do, but it is odd.
Not in your own house.
It's unlikely, yeah. And
in your own house, you're comfortable. Like that's the whole thing in acting is that if it's your house, you know where the seats are. You don't look behind you when you sit down.
Yeah.
These kinds of things. So I do think it was weird that he was wearing that.
And that's a change from the first cast's costume.
Yeah,
he wasn't wearing that. Sorry.
It's a new hint that he's dead, right?
It is a new hint that he's dead.
He was in a van or something when he drove off a cliff or something.
Yeah,
in a van
yeah. It was snowing or something like it was the bad weather.
So that's why he was wearing a gilet.
Yes, exactly. So it's actually quite interesting, and it is like he is there because of his relationship with his wife, because of his Grey friendship and the nods to a potential romantic relationship with Lauren. Yeah, and obviously then Ben is also there because he's a psychic and he
Well,
can kind of just.
I think the idea is he can see that
Ben can see him because he's a psychic.
and
the others can see him because
they knew him so well.
Yeah, exactly.
They go into a little bit of lore about how ghosts work in this world.
Yeah.
But that stuff like the window closing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is not being able to close. That's something I was saying. Like some stuff does happen, some quote unquote spooky, unsettling stuff, but it's not unsettling, and it's kind of it serves its purpose, right? But in the when later on you're like, oh, that's why it was happening.
Yes.
Oh, that's very clever. But whilst you're watching those 2 hours of build up, it's like, okay, a window didn't close, big deal. That's not very scary. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I understand it's recontextualized as significant and actually quite clever, but it doesn't help the build.
The build up, yeah. I know. I totally agree with you. That is true. So it's a great payoff, and actually, the very end scene, I think is one of the best ones. That he is on stage when the police comes to tell his wife. Yeah. That he is he was in an accident, and the actor just disappeared.
Yeah, well, he kind of slowly slinks off into a corner behind a plant, and then the wall clearly opened up, and he walked through the wall. Or something.
But we blinked and missed it.
Yeah, he kind of, but yeah, it's very clever. He effectively disappears. It's a clever direction, right? Your eye is drawn to the police and whatnot. And by the time you look back, Ben? No, what's his name?
Sam.
By the time you look back, Sam's gone.
Yeah, and he's not. It's almost as if he also wasn't aware that he was dead.
He wasn't aware.
Yeah.
That's why and that's kind of the whole thing. Right? He's the skeptic and stuff, and he's trying to convince himself he's not dead or something. You know.
Yeah.
It's but he slinks off then because that's his time to go up at 222 to see his baby, and then we hear crying come over the baby monitor then, and then it's kind of just lights out, followed by a banshee shriek, which is just
unnecessary. But we've gone on enough about this, and you've heard it enough. So yes, this is 222.
Yeah. So it's really good ending and twist, and like I said, there's lots of hints. Like so, the window thing. Alexa can't hear him.
Alexa can't hear him.
Which is played off for Alexa being obviously Amazon's assistant butler.
Who doesn't actually bring you things.
It's
but,
played for laughs that Alexa only listens to the women, but Ben never tries.
Yeah.
It's that it listens to Lauren and it listens to Jenny.
Yeah.
But doesn't listen to. And Ben never tries.
Yeah.
Ben doesn't listen to Sam, and they're like, "Oh, Alexa, she only listens to the women. She only listens to the women. Solidarity to the women." But then it turns out
there was a reason why.
And they never say, "Oh, that's why Alexa." They never actually.
In fairness
say,
to them,
oh my God, that's why he wasn't here. It actually just ends, and we leave the theatre going, "Oh, that's why Alexa couldn't hear him.
Yeah, so
that's why the window wasn't closing. Oh." And so on.
In fairness to them, they don't, explain every single detail to you. You do have to work it out at the end. Like not work it out. You know what's happening, but you do have to work it out retrospectively. All the hints. I'm sure there are more that we missed. They were there. Why he couldn't interact with, or the things he was saying. I'm sure there were other things. But yeah, it's interesting. It's a good ending.
It's a little bit cliche. He was dead all along. Classic. But it was done very well.
Mm-hmm. It was definitely done well.
A new take on that kind of not cliche, but on that kind of typical sort of style of a ghost story ending. It was good. I knew the moment the knock on the door came. I actually just the door knocked and I went, "It's the police. He's dead."
Yeah,
that's what I knew for certain. It was like because it's really late at night. Who knocks your door that late at night?
The police.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's usually bad news from the police when it's that late at night. It was definitely it's definitely. I think it's worth experiencing for £25 for to experience that twist. But I definitely wouldn't want to pay much more than that.
No, definitely not.
But yeah, so with or without spoilers, 3 stars, restricted view recommendation, which is a very respectable and good score.
Mm-hmm.
So well done. 222. Let us know if you've seen it. Which cast did you see? Have you seen it more than once? Would you go back to see it?
Oh, yes. Cast? And is there any difference? If you've seen different casts, what did you think? Is it different? Do they play it differently? What do they do differently? Let us know.
And let us know if they take that damn shriek out of this new version. So thank you very much for listening to the Restricted View podcast as ever. We are, I think, 222. We weren't planning on reviewing that this week, but it's because it's come back. So we are behind schedule. We have at least 2 reviews that we
Oh,
need to
God,
do
yeah.
for shows we saw in the last few weeks. And we also hope to do a sort of awards of sort for the last season. We actually had hopes to coincide that with the Olivier Awards season.
Yes, but it's my fault we didn't, because I didn't get on with my nominations. I'll get
Well,
onto
it's fine.
it.
It's fine because I think it's about a year now since we started the podcast.
Yes.
So we can our season can be June to May or May to June.
Yeah, we dictate theatre seasons, of course.
Yeah, exactly, the season. But yeah, so we got, as I said, got at least a couple of reviews coming and some awards coming. And in the meantime,
You should probably do a list soon, you know.
we should do a list. We've got so many reviews to get through.
I know.
And but in the meantime, we're going to take our own advice and we're going to see more shows, which means that we're probably going to have even more reviews we're going to have to do. Do let us know if there's anything coming up that you would like us to go and check out, so we can give you our take on it. Let us know what you're planning on seeing shortly.
Yes, let us know. Message us on Instagram. Send us emails. You know where to find us. The links are all on the description of this podcast. And don't forget, we also have our YouTube channel now. You can listen to the podcast there. There are previous episodes.
Maybe you are listening to it there.
Oh, maybe you are. Wow. Let us
If
know.
so, comment below.
Yes, let us know.
Or in that case, like, subscribe. YouTube likes us. The algorithm likes you saying these things. Like, subscribe, comment below.
And follow us.
Smash that like button.
Oh, no. No, you don't need to smash it. You can delicately click.
The thing is, a like or dislike helps you in the algorithm. So
Yeah,
if
do
you
what you like.
If you liked it, like it. If you disliked it, dislike it. Comment and let us know why you liked it or disliked it. And of course, in the meantime,
See more shows.
bye.